Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 12th, 2026 Houston chapter meeting of the Electric Auto Association. We're a little bit early for Pi Day, but I can say happy 3.14 to everybody. That's coming up in 2 days. Since we're at the engineering school here at Rice, we're happy to be hosted by folks here at Rice and have student involvement. That's great. And so we've got some exciting things happening. We want to play the initial slides here. Okay. So we have our lunch for folks on the south side of Houston. A lot of folks from JSC at NASA like to meet up for lunch, but everyone is welcome. We rotate between three restaurants. This week is Chewy's, and it's on the 20th. So when I say this week, I'm not referring to tomorrow. It's a week from tomorrow. And starting at 11:30, but you can come anytime. Everybody gets their own food, and we just chat a whole bunch. And another opportunity to chat is our Batteries and Brews, which will be over at Watershed on Belfort. And we'll do that on Sunday, March 22nd. And everyone's on their own for whatever beverages and food they might want to consume. And it's great for folks kind of on that west southwest side to get together. And we have the Art Car Parade coming up April 9th through the 12th. And you can see a mocked up car there in the large photograph. The car itself exists, but not painted the way you see it there. That's all AI done by our vice president. So he's still deciding what he wants to do for his car, but he's kind of organizing it for our chapter. So you can contact him about that. And then we have Career Day coming up March 19th. And so, Colin, you want to mention some things about that?
Um, if folks want to show up, uh, just to bring their EV and talk to the kids, please do. They've got ideas about how to entertain the engage the kids. I'm all ears.
hmm Always good to get the real young generations involved. So I think this is great. Okay. And we have Earth Month. So we've graduated from Earth Day to Earth Week to Earth Month. And we go back a slide. I saw it there. So Earth Month, the month of April, we'll be doing similar things to what we've done in the past, right in the center of Houston at Discovery Green. Um, Again, our vice president is organizing the event, but you can see some pictures there from past events where we've parked our cars on the sidewalk. One of the requirements is that you have to commit for the whole day compared to other events where people could come and go with their cars because they don't want the cars driving while the public is walking around on the sidewalks.
10 to 5.
Something like 10 to 5 is the commitment. So you have to be there and then you're not allowed to drive your car away. You can leave if you really need to, but your car can't move during that event. And I don't know when the robotics competition is. Is it? It's over. Uh, this is on Saturday, the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And Saturday, the 25th. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll miss you, Seth, but they tend to always do it this, yeah, the Saturday after the 22nd, because of course 22nd is the Earth Day that started in the 1970s. The weekend after, so it doesn't interfere with the robotics competition. That's a good thing. Okay. Oh, you're saying it brings in more people. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm just by default, I'm always trying to eliminate conflicts for activities that we have, things like that. Ah, okay. Well, judging, yeah, we'll come up to that topic in just a minute here about another judging opportunity. So the next one, Colin. Okay, benefits of joining. You've probably all seen this before. So we always encourage people to join. You can go to our local website and then that'll take you to the national. And so we have some paperwork here for folks that want to take it to friends and family. It's always good to share, and especially these comic books. Those are fun things. Okay, opportunities. Everyone's, of course, able to start their own Earth Day event. So we have the one on Discovery Green online, so people can go and register their car, say that they're, ready to go talk to the public. But you can do one in your neighborhood as well. And we've had years where we've had multiple events. We're not going to do IKEA this year, but we've done that in elementary school and some other places in the past. Church, churches and parks and other places for folks. Yeah. HREG, so the Houston Renewable Energy Group, that started many years ago, and it's kind of petered out, but it is our Houston chapter of Texas, TXSES, Texas Solar Energy Society. And we'd like to reinvigorate this. So if anyone has any ideas, you can come see me or someone else. Um, right now, of course, San Antonio and Dallas and Austin and all these places are blowing us away because Houston, we used to do a lot of solar tours at houses. Well, that's gotten to be common enough. I don't know that that's attracting that many people anymore. And so some other activities just haven't kicked off. So we'd really like to get some people to help bring that back into being, the HREG. So Facebook, people can go onto Facebook and read about things and post. Please post things that you've seen. Nice cyber trucks with nice wraps, things like that. They're fun to see. Okay. And one thing that kind of, you might say, doesn't have a slide is, unfortunately, we're one location where we've been able to do wings and wheels before has now closed down. The 1940 Air Terminal Museum is no longer an open museum. We'll have to see what happens with that. It was kind of unusual when I heard that the folks that are all volunteers at the museum have to collect enough money to rent the building from the city of Houston. So it seems kind of turned around. You'd think Houston would support the museum, but instead of collecting money from it. So we'll see if maybe the city decides to do something with that really nice building, which needs more attention to really get it into a nice renovated shape. But we always enjoyed having our Wings and Wheels Day out there. We've done that a couple of Septembers, and it's just nice, another opportunity to get out and meet the public. And then people have fun getting onto the ramp side of the building because it's really unique here in Houston, unlike almost anywhere else in the country where the public is not able to be out on the ramp side of an airport where the airplanes are right there going up and down the runways. Here, they had special permission to do that. They would watch people very closely, but they just had a couple of cones along with a painted line, and that was really all that was the rule. Don't go past that line. And so it was exciting for people to be able to watch the airplanes taking off with no poles or fences or anything in the way. But like as I said, they've shut down that museum. I know that I dealt with an earlier executive director, and then she left, and they had a temporary person, and it just it's gotten to the point where they just weren't getting enough money in to do things. So welcome, yeah, come on in. And so that's the story on that. In case people are wondering, we at the current time won't be able to do Wings and Wheels. But back to judges. So, Professor David, would you like to come up and if you stand here, then folks online can see you.
All right. Hello. How you doing? So on April 16th, it's a Thursday, I believe, we're going to have the engineering design showcase at the Ion, where the old Sears used to be. It features projects that are done by our senior capstone design in several fields: mechanical engineering, electrical, bioengineering, civil engineering, global health. They have some people doing that. And of course, we also have some student projects and student clubs. Are you going to be there? Sebastian, at the showcase? You're planning to, yeah. So then, of course, we have our Eclipse Rocket Club and Wind Energy Club. So we have many clubs that will also present there. So we're in need of judges. People will come and you'll be assigned probably about 4 teams to judge. So it's not a tremendous burden. So you go talk to the teams for 5-10 minutes or so, and then we actually have a way, like a score. I think they give you an iPad with the scoring on it. And we have like a standard scoring rubric to start with anyway, so you don't have to worry about making up scores on your own. So anyway, so we're inviting people to come be judges for that. Is there any way I can get on to What's that? Okay. Can I get how can I get the link up on the screen? Or is there a way that you could type on this, start a blank slide or something like that? Or I can get on the internet? All righty then. So yeah, so it's a very, and of course, they hand out big prizes that night too. The top prize, the top team wins $5,000. Yeah. And there's quite a few other prizes that are like $1,500, $1,000 and stuff, usually split among a team. So it's a big night. Everybody's been working for like a whole year to get ready for this. And so it's really important that we have people come and judge them and consider what they've been doing and rate and rank them fairly, I guess, right? No, just any website. I mean, I could give you do you just want to get on a browser? I can guide you to the place. Oh, no, well, it's OEDK at rice.edu. Oshman Engineering Design Kitchen. Some of the younger folks are surprised to hear why is it called the Design Kitchen? Because actually, when I was a student here, that was that's where all the food on campus was cooked. It was the central kitchen. Okay, so not linked. Just type OEDK dot. Oh, here we go. .rice .edu. Okay, and then you can do slash. Okay, well that's fine. Okay, yeah. No, you can click on the main one. See if that has the things. Roll down a little bit where it says the Harold and Carolyn Huff showcase. Click on Find Out More. There you go. And we'll roll down. We'll have some teams there. And judge registration and info. There we go. So you just go there. That's it. Here we go. See me there? There I am wearing my hat. This is the team from, which team is this? That's the team from a couple of years ago. That's the Baymax team. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's not the most current team, but they won a nice prize. But yeah. Yeah, this is it. If you just want to click on the, you don't have, and this is the place to go. And you click on the link. You'll fill out some things. Try to do that before April 6th, and would really love to have you. And we're always looking for people from the community to come and help. We don't want professors like me putting our thumb on the scales for our students, So it's better if we could have some help from you all. So appreciate it. Thanks very much. Hope to see you there. And by the way, you can always come see the show anyways. Showcase. Yes. No, you can come as a spectator. It's open to the public, yeah. Same hours, 4:30 to 7. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. And dinosaurs are especially invited. Okay. Inside one there for the young folks. Okay. So this is good. And Sebastian, would you like to talk a little bit here next? And then we'll have Vinny talk. All right. So we'll hear the latest on the Rice student activity.
All right. Hello, everyone. We're the Rice Electric Vehicle team. We're an American Solar Challenge team, and you may have seen our car downstairs. We're very excited to have you guys here at Rice again. And yeah, so we're going to cover a couple updates on our project. We did a brief introduction at the last meeting. So we're just going to cover some updates that we've been working on this semester. A couple of the important things, we'll go over an overview of strategy, and then the main groups of projects we've been working on the electrical side is the battery pack and of course the solar energy. We've been working on some mechanical car components as well. And then in between we have some systems things that use a little bit of both. And then to wrap it all up, we'll talk about the business of essentially a student race team. So if you would like to check out the car again, feel free to just let me know and I can open it up for you guys to check out on the way out. This is what it looks like when it's fully opened up. You can see it looks pretty nice in there, lots of carbon fiber. And right now how it is downstairs, it's basically just all closed up and put all together. So it looks pretty much just like an unpainted version of how it'll look when when it has wheels put on it and is going around a racetrack. Then this is a little bit more of what the finished product's going to look like. Not going to be completely in red, obviously, but just so it's easy to see. The layout is essentially this, we call it a catamaran design because it has the two sort of pods. On the left side, you have the driver, and then on the right side, you should have most of the high voltage components, with the exception of the motor is actually only the left rear wheel drive. But all of the rest of the high voltage components, like the solar charge controllers and things like that, go on the right side of the car just to keep it safe. It also makes it a nice 50-50 weight distribution, so it drives really nicely. And as far as the competition goes, we're competing in the American Solar Car Challenge, which is actually two different races. The first one is a track race. They just announced it'll actually be at Brainerd International Raceway, which is in Minnesota. Very interesting, not just because it's really far away, but also because it's a very fast road course. So it'll be really interesting having all of that speed just from your essentially solar array and a small 5 kilowatt hour battery pack. And then if you do well enough in that race, you qualify for a cross-country event. They haven't announced the route for that yet, but it's usually they pick two cities in the United States, and it's a very cannonball run style event. So first team to make it from one city to the other wins. It's a very good real-world test of your car. Are you able to do stop signs and traffic lights and not get run over by traffic, all of those things. And both of them are endurance races. So the team with the most miles over for the track race over 3 8-hour days wins the race. And then for the cross country race, if you're able to drive the entire distance, then the team that makes it from one city to the other first is the winner. So our goal as a first year team, we want to be the best of the American first year teams. Keyword there is American because some European teams are coming to kind of bully us out a little bit. But as far as like UT Arlington and a couple of the other, I believe there's 7 new teams this year. We think with our carbon fiber car, we have a pretty good motor. We should be able to do pretty well. And then kind of interesting strategy choice we've made is to target the track race. It's pretty expensive to do a whole cross-country event, buy hotels and all of that stuff. So it's also a budget-oriented decision, but we want to target the track race, especially because once you're facing some of the good teams, they optimize really like long, skinny cars for those highway cross-country drives. We're kind of doing the opposite and making a nice 4-wheel traditional car that'll do really well on track. And once we come back to the university, they'll just see that we got, maybe top 15 or so in the Formula Sun Grand Prix, and they won't know that we didn't compete in the cross country race. So pretty strategic decision there, and it makes our car a lot of fun to drive. But then we'll also be spectating the cross-country race, hoping to learn as much as possible, and in the future, hopefully we'll be able to compete in that one as well. And then this is essentially what the racing decision looks like. As I mentioned, we kind of played our car's strengths. Our car is a bit smaller than some of the higher budget teams, and as mainly due to its smaller solar array, but it actually makes it very lightweight and semi-aerodynamic. It's not as aerodynamic as the bullet-shaped cars, but still does pretty well. We have a really good motor. That's our kind of other main strength. And so thinking about kind of strategizing for when we'll do the best relative to the other teams, we actually do even better when there's less solar energy because our car can go further with less energy being more lightweight. So we actually kind of want it to be rained out, oddly enough, for a solar race. In our first year, we really just want to not have any fires or any crashes or things like that. So as long as we're able to drive, make it a couple laps, not get last place, we'll definitely learn a lot just by being there. So as long as we are able to be safe and learn a lot, I think it'll be a good event. As far as actual like engineering goes, the main thing we've been working on lately is our battery. So as an update from what we talked about last time, we actually selected a battery cell. It's from a company called Amprius, which is a startup in California. They make silicon anode cells in their 18650s, just like the kind of size that used to be in a lot of commercial vehicles. Some of them are moving to different sizes now, like 21700. But these are pretty readily available cells because the company actually makes them for drones. They're kind of primary customers, a lot of different drone clients. What this silicon anode technology does is it gives us really high energy density. So that 300 watt hours per kilogram is versus like a typical 230 you would see on like the NMC cells that would be in a Tesla or something like that. And it's much higher than the lithium iron phosphate cells that you would see in cheaper electric vehicles. The downside of this cell technology, though, is its cycle life. It doesn't last quite as long as some of the other chemistries do. Oh, I didn't realize that's what the timer was. My bad. Yeah, so the only downside, the reason you're not really seeing these in electric vehicles right now is their cycle life is not as good as the other two chemistries. That's where student teams like us and different experimental vehicles come in, is we're able to collect data on their cycle life, and hopefully that can help improve cycle life for potential future batteries. There's already a couple phones actually that are sold with a similar technology, silicon carbon anodes in their battery cells. And that makes them have like much higher energy density and these crazy phones with like 2-day battery life. So imagine that transferred over to a car. Since our battery packs are small, it's not a super expensive cost for us. But if you imagine that technology scaled up to something like a Tesla or a full-size car, being able to increase your range significantly just by switching to this chemistry would be a super valuable thing to do. You just have to overcome a couple of those different teething pains of the new chemistry. And we just buy a whole bunch of these 18650 cells. Here's a couple of the specifications, kind of as I talked about. With this chemistry, there's not many downsides compared to typical battery cells. You can see capacity is the same. Of course, the size is also the same, typical voltage. And so building the pack works just like building any other cell. They also do pretty well temperature-wise, a little bit higher internal resistance, and then the main disadvantage is that cycle life right there. But we build a new battery pack for every year, so we'll be just fine and hopefully learn a lot about the technology while using these cells. Yes. So, no. Yeah, and that's more than, so once you have the whole pack set up, that's more than enough for what our solar array is bringing in anyway. So as long as we're able to charge with the solar array while it's driving, then we're good there. The main limitation is actually mainly thermal, because liquid cooling takes a lot of energy that we don't have, so we're entirely air cooled. So just making sure we have enough ventilation to not overheat the battery cells And there's control systems for all that. So we're not going to overheat, but we'll have we consider that cooling, but no liquid cooling. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's pretty typical. That's what most of the other teams do. Um, and so once we assemble that final pack, a lot of that comes into designing those fans and the spacing between the battery cells. So to get from that 18650 single cell to a full 5 kWh battery pack, we take 360, we put 36 of them in series and 10 in parallel. That works out to, just from the cells, being a little bit under the 5.25 kWh maximum that's allowed by the rules. Very lightweight, only 17 kilograms and around 130 volts nominal. That layout also lets them achieve the 12 kilowatt peak power that our motor can achieve, and it should be fine in charging as well. We kind of operate in two different sub teams as a student team. We have like a couple electrical teams and a mechanical team. So you can see on the top, we're working in CAD to figure out all those specs. So making sure we can have the maximum allowed in the maximum capacity allowed in the rules. But if you go and look at our car, you'll see it's actually not quite long enough to fit all that. So then on the mechanical team, we're working on the cooling and the layout, actually stacking two layers on top of each other so it all fits together in the car nicely. Oh, and then the whole thing is also removable. So we're able to charge it separately. And most importantly for the competition, they take like this almost FBI looking like evidence tape and they seal off your battery to make sure you don't charge it during the race at all. And then as a byproduct of being a car team, we also get to experiment with some other non-electrical related things that are still relevant to EVs. Our most kind of relevant thing is the composite structures we've been looking into. So the whole car is actually built from carbon fiber, so we have a lot of experience with composites. Specifically for the battery pack, so sandwich panels are what you see here, that essentially they consist of a really stiff material that's really thin on the face sheets, and then a super lightweight material in the middle. And what that does, it's often in aerospace applications for battery packs. It's in a couple EVs for battery packs already. And it's the material and it's the kind of layout that pretty much the floor of every airliner is made out of. But what we want to do with our kind of interesting regulations and really tight packaging, everything has to fit in those two really skinny fairings, is we also want ours to have sort of a crush zone effect and be able to protect the battery from impacts, because we have to prove in the rules that if we get, hit by another car, that we don't expect any bad loads to be transferred to our battery pack. So we experimented with putting different materials in that sort of center core there. And you can see there, you can actually hit it and it'll deform, absorb all that energy, and then go back to normal once that load is removed. So it kind of gives you the benefit of that really stiff thing to hold the weight of the battery pack and a crush zone, kind of combining those two characteristics into one. Won't bore you with too much of the engineering, but it's really interesting when you just kind of throw some idea out there and it actually works. So you can see mixing the two materials, there actually is like an ideal ratio that does improve performance. So honestly, we just started 3D printing materials and it turned out that two of them actually worked. So we'll be either in this battery pack or the next one using it. Alternatively, we can just use fiberglass, similar sandwich panels. That would be pretty much exactly this the spec you would find in an airliner's floor. And then, of course, all of the car stuff. So it has this kind of janky front suspension that's technically double wishbone, and then a kind of motorcycle style swing arm in the rear. That's mainly for packaging. It just fits really nicely in that skinny space right there. Then it has two redundant brake systems in addition to the regenerative braking. And interestingly, it's a hub motor for the drive, and it's just on the left wheel for now. The motor's pretty expensive, and 12 kilowatts is plenty of power to drive the 400-pound car. So it's really interesting seeing it really simplifies your whole drivetrain to just have the motor in the hub. And of course, it eliminates a whole bunch of drive components as well compared to an EV, like a traditional commercial EV. And then motor controller, we're just We're buying from a company that makes specialized motor controllers for things like this. It's super efficient. It'll work with our cruise control system, and we hope to be designing our own in the future. You can see here, this was a senior design team at a school that has another solar car team, and they actually made theirs even cheaper than the commercial one. And it did even better because of using other newer technologies like gallium nitride, fancy things like that. Last kind of projects are the systems. So it's a little bit of a mixture of mechanical and electrical. Essentially, just as a driver, you want to be able to sit in the car, drive the car, and use the car. So we have an entire second battery pack just to power the low voltage stuff, just like you would find in any commercial vehicle. Around 12-volt battery that powers lights, horns, dashboard, other telemetry and data systems. Um, the complicated part is also the contactors and protection circuitry, making sure that the high voltage battery pack won't turn on unless all of the protection circuitry is working as well, making sure they're all dependent on each other. No, we don't drive through the night. It's so that, well, the light is to make it road legal. So you need, yeah. For the you need turn signals for the track portion, but that's about it. Um, yeah, exactly. So we have just little custom PCB things, little flexible PCBs that slit in the little holes in the side of the chassis. And they have some bright LEDs on there, and those will work as our lights. We're not super worried about making the headlights super bright since we are mainly just focused on those turn signals and it's called daytime running lights, just the white LEDs in the front that signal that the car is on. And then the other big side is the business side. So we're also running the student club, recruiting new members. You can see we mostly have a whole bunch of engineers on our team. As Dr. Travis mentioned, we also want to attend the engineering design showcase at the end of the year. We were debating doing a separate car unveiling event. So if we're able to stick to our schedule, hopefully we'll find a venue for that, have a nice livery on the car, throw a nice, event around it, talk about in depth a couple of the different things, and hope the July, I believe 18th to 20 something. I can find the exact dates in a second. I believe it's that end of 18th to something else. And then also running all the other school activities like senior design projects and different course credit opportunities. So far for electrical engineers on our team, they're actually able to join a course and get credit for being a part of the team. They just have to write a couple essays about their project and then meet with our faculty advisor. And then getting in lots of practice for competition. As you can see in the bottom, that's another team going through, we call it scrutineering in the competition. Basically, all of the judges will go and ask, make sure that your car is completely meets the rules. They'll make sure it's safe, and they'll ask you a whole bunch of really intimidating, scary questions that you kind of have to prove your knowledge with. So safety is a super big emphasis there as well. They want to make sure that your car is built well and that you actually know how to handle your car. And then for the other side, it really gives you a sense of what racing is like. So maybe for students that are interested in Formula E or things like that. We're working on founding our own nonprofit organization. That way we can enter into contracts with people or with different companies. So maybe like Bridgestone for tire compounds, if we want to get a more formal relationship with our battery supplier, things like that, as well as community involvement. So I know lots of teams also like to maybe show their car at local high school and middle school events, get people interested in STEM and in EVs and sustainability. It's a great way to get involved in the community. And then, of course, we have to do all the paperwork and the managing of the money. So I kind of put some pictures of obscure paperwork there. Those are some of the forms I've had to fill out this past week. So that way you can get to the exciting part in the top picture and you're sitting at the racetrack with all your screens, kind of coordinating strategy. So also all the logistics of how we get to the competition, how we get back from the competition, where we're staying, and especially in the cross country race, kind of coordinating all of that stuff as well. As a business, we're doing pretty well because we were actually able to get a lot of connections to help us get materials for our car. So as far as like the chassis that you see downstairs, and a lot of help with the battery cells and things like that. And then we did some pretty good job fundraising. Essentially, we have most of what we need to finish the car, and we're just hoping to get some last couple sponsors to help cover competition costs. That way we can compete. And then next year will be a much easier year since we'll be keeping the same chassis we already have, just upgrading it with all the lessons we've learned now. So maybe a better wheel design, and upgrades to the solar array if the budget allows for that, and designing more custom parts like the motor controller. So essentially this year we bought a lot of things off the shelf like that motor controller and like our motor. But as we get more experience and get some more upperclassmen, we'll start replacing those with parts we've designed ourselves. Yeah, so that's essentially our update for the month. That's what we've been working on. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Or if you want to check out the car, or stop by some other time, just let me know. And my email's up there if you want to get in contact with me. Yes, we are. We had one that is not running very well. We had an old Chevy van, but yeah. 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 We think we'll be fine because the car doesn't weigh very much. So just anything that can tow. Um, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm honestly just hoping that some student with a truck is able to take off a week from their internship in July. Um, or a prof yeah, if any professors want to attend the event, that'd be super helpful as well. Um, oh, okay. No worries. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I mean, everything will be posted online, so they'll have a live event tracker. You can follow along with us. Um, and we'll have a social media page up and running, to keep you guys posted as well. Yeah.
What is the 12-volt starter battery chemistry?
NMC. So they're just Samsung 21700 cells that we bought off of just a reseller of battery cells in Georgia. So lithium ion, it's a type of lithium ion.
Good. More
Right.
questions from folks?
Ooh.
Oh, no, broke ankle. Oh, okay, yeah. Please do. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So actually at lunchtime today, we were talking about your project, the folks that were meeting together with me, some NASA folks and such. And somebody was asking about the tires. Are they bicycle tires or are they something bigger? Because they're not as big as car tires, right?
Diameter wise, they are, but they're skinnier. So they're
Well,
16
yeah,
inch.
the width. Sometimes.
Basically, Michelin and Bridgestone have created this like solar car monopoly where only they have the right size. So it's a 95 millimeter width, which is like slightly bigger than a motorcycle tire, but then it's also the 16-inch diameter.
Okay.
So that's why there's no wheels on the car at the moment. Is that's actually like the hardest procurement thing to do, especially with the legal things. Like the Bridgestone tire, especially, everything's a non-disclosure agreement. So like some of our members wouldn't even be able to see the tire specifications they need to.
Ah.
And then getting our school to sign off on that is also really hard.
Real question. What's the towing capacity? I know Model X has got decent towing capacity. Model X has a decent towing capacity. What's the towing capacity on a Model Y? 3,500. There we go. So you don't
3,500.
necessarily have to find someone with a pickup truck. You can find somebody with a Model Y.
Yeah, that's more than enough.
That'd be even cooler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Electric pulling the solar car on a trailer.
What brings that to mind is a few weeks ago, some friends of mine from college that live in Oregon came through, and they're pulling a motorhome with a Model Y.
Huh. Wow.
Very good. Very good.
I've seen a couple Rivians on some of the other teams. A lot of them will have a sort of trailer with their toolbox, so they have just one giant trailer with everything on it, hooked up to Rivian. Or um, I know Michigan is Ford sponsored, so they have a bunch of F-150 Lightnings in their little convoy. Um, uh, the other cool one is all the Lucid teams. So especially like UIUC, they can't really tow anything, but they just look really cool being like escorted in their like it's always the same like metallic gray spec, so it looks like there's some like official business just driving around in their matching Lucids. So hopefully we'll get to that kind of sponsorship at some point. But yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions in the room or online? Well, that's all kinds of fun stuff. You are just having too much fun.
Yeah. Glad to talk about it.
Okay, so Vinny, if you want to come on up here and I'll introduce you. So Vinny Polignano is an air quality planner in the transportation department of the Houston-Galveston Area Council. He supports a number of agency initiatives, including climate planning, improved air quality data access, and zero emission vehicle planning. All right, so going to learn all kinds of good fun stuff.
Great to be here. Thank you. Let's get set up. Yeah, that's good. Alrighty. Nice to meet y'all. I am Vinny Polignano, and as introduced, I'm an air quality planner at the Houston-Galveston Area Council. How many of you have heard of HGAC? Okay, great. Yeah, that is more than the general public. So saves me a little time having to explain things, but I'll give a little introduction about our work, and hopefully you'll find some of this interesting. I'll preface this by saying from the conversation I heard in the last presentation, definitely going to be a different track of conversation. So I'm not a tech guy, I'm a policy guy, and it kind of is a good showing of the gap between sort of that leading edge of research, science, technology, and then old clunky policy comes in and tries to do what it can. So let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna introduce myself and the agency. We'll talk about kind of the deliverable. The reason we asked to present here is we just published a regional zero emission vehicle infrastructure study, about like 35 pages. Definitely going to be below y'all's reading level on this material, but it's written towards those policymakers, and I'll get into that in a bit. Show you some material we have that may be of use or at least of interest, regional trends, etc., available on our web pages that I'll demo, and I'll tell you about the exciting project we have up next. Alrighty, so for folks who don't know HGAC, we are a council of governments. We fill kind of a weird middle space between sort of that municipal government who would have authority to implement and have sort of authorities and the planning side of things. So uh, all of the municipalities or many of the municipalities in the region come together under HGAC and agree to vote, discuss, fund, etc., regional projects or projects that have regional impacts. Specifically, the transportation department, which is where I work, is referred to as a metropolitan planning organization. It's a federal requirement for large cities, and we're responsible for important documents. Again, it's kind of, I don't want to say a shadow agency because we strive for transparency, but folks don't think of us in terms of that transportation planning. We're kind of in the middle there, but we do a regional transportation plan, transportation improvement program. So that first document has a 40-year, I want to say 25, 30-year time span, and it says what do we want our transportation system to look like in 2045. So that's the iteration they're working on right now. That transportation improvement program is 4 years. So what are we going to do in the next 4 years? How are we going to pay for it? Sort of all across the 8-county region that we cover. And then additional work, which is where I lie. We do stuff with safety, multimodal transportation, congestion mitigation, and recently climate. So one of my other major projects is the EPA grant climate pollution reduction. Surprisingly, it still exists and hasn't been canceled. But been working on that for about 2 years, and it's the first regional climate action plan. So we did a pretty thorough GHG inventory of the region and are working on finalizing that document. But a growing focus. So MPOs were transportation planning agencies for transportation planners. And obviously, zero emission vehicles in the region are growing. So I think the latest number, something like 3% of all vehicles registered within the region are either plug-in hybrid or battery electric, which is exciting. And that adds up to about 100,000. About 25% of Texas EVs are within the 8 counties that surround Harris. Alrighty, so yeah, my introduction I already did, but so I'm coming at things from a policy side. I have my master's in environmental policy and specifically work with air quality. It's maybe an illogical fit to have the zero emission vehicle stuff. Well, now that I say it, it's not. I'd say my education is more in health planning and that sort of side of air quality, and zero emissions is a topic I've had to do a bit of learning on the job. So in this study, again, basically what we realized is that if we wanted to be more aggressive in planning, funding, and sort of ranking projects that related to zero emission vehicles, so whether that be hydrogen fueling or charging or other projects, we needed some foundational documents. And that's a boring procedural part about public service and government. So there's money called congestion mitigation and air quality funding. So by virtue of our poor air quality, we get extra funding from the government to do things like make sure your stoplights are all timed properly, adding lanes, adding capacity, in an effort to reduce both congestion and improve air quality. And in the future, there's a chance where that could be funding for additional EV chargers. That could be funding for hydrogen fueling infrastructure, but we need the sort of planning bedrock to be able to get into those more innovative funding categories. So the introduction of the study is pretty basic. So it's just talking about our region air quality, gives background into zero emission vehicles, which I'll just jump ahead. Like I said, y'all probably all know this, but the scope of this study is battery electric, plug-in hybrid, and fuel cell. And those are the 8 counties for which we're responsible for planning. So 7 million residents currently in that HJC area, estimated to go up to 11 million by 2050. And critically, we're non-attainment for ozone right now. So the Clean Air Act sets out criteria air pollutants and sets health-based standards. There are 2 standards for ozone, so it's kind of inside baseball, but that 2015 is more stringent, but we're still considered non-attainment for that older, less stringent standard. And what that means in a practical sense, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of regulatory process by virtue of being non-attainment for that pollutant. It actually necessitates a pretty intensive project called transportation conformity. Maybe one of the most boring parts of my job, But essentially what transportation conformity does is it connects state air quality planning and regional transportation planning. So every time there's a new RTP, which is that 40-year horizon document, or TIP, which is that 4-year planning document, some pretty intensive model goes in to see, okay, we want to add a lane here, we want to add a road here, new bridge, yada yada. Every single project that affects the roadway in HGAC is modeled to see what the vehicle miles traveled are going to be at each link. And then from that, we're able to model air quality impacts, and we get a budget from the state. So it's a pretty intense sort of feedback loop where we can't do any projects if it's going to harm or if it will make us exceed our air quality budgets. Blah, blah, blah. So that's for ozone. And then pretty critically, we're nearing non-attainment for PM 2.5, which is particulate matter. All that to say is we are excited about the prospect of introducing more zero-emission vehicles into the transportation system. It'll help make those budgets easier. It'll obviously help with human health, which is the primary interest or why I'm intrigued by this work. So like I said, this is for policymakers, so this is kind of contextualizing all this stuff for them. They're kind of time poor, and being able to make these arguments in a concise document can really help alleviate some of the questions or pushback we get as we do some of our planning. So an example of imagine a policy board meeting. So we're discussing with elected officials, and one of the questions that comes up is about a school district who wants 10 EV buses. So they're not asking for anyone to pay anything. They separately had gone to the EPA, asked for a grant, was awarded a grant, and then had to come to our policymakers to say, hey, FYI, this is happening. The EPA wants your sign off, so you know that this is happening. Sparked about a 90-minute conversation broadly about EVs, and just brought up that there are some clear misconceptions or a lack of education amongst our elected officials about this technology. So hence a study, a plan, and we move forward. So in that background, addressing and explaining the alphabet soup, very often I hear these words used differently in sort of a colloquial speaking sense versus what's kind of relevant here in the regulatory sense. And then going to the basics. So this is like 101 level, trying to get sort of that grounding knowledge amongst the people who are going to be voting on things. So how they operate, charging, explaining what's the difference between all those plugs. It's mostly allaying concerns about range, describing battery life cycles, the risk of fire, which is very low. And I go through this for the 3 technology types that the study covers. And then this is where I'm sort of contextualizing this. The genie's out of the bottle. This transition's coming, and we sort of got to get on board. Notably, Texas is number 3 nationwide for battery electric vehicles. Obviously, we have pretty abundant energy. We have a lot of manufacturing in the state, so it's exciting. NEVI, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure. So it's actually still proceeding, if y'all are familiar. It is not dead yet. Yeah, and that's something when I talk about our planning process, where NEVI and TxDOT, they come within the MPOs and ask the MPOs sort of where does this infrastructure need to go, and when they get to that phase of their project. And then the data, which was interesting. So for each county of those 8, we I've indicated how many of the regional EVs are in that county versus how much of the charging at level 2 and 3, and just sort of that at a glance, like, whoa, there are 14% more chargers, or the share of chargers in the region disproportionately is in Harris County, which intuitively makes sense as the urban core. But just shows at a glance some of those gaps between charging and the presence of vehicles currently. And this is all, yeah, for sure. And I was just going to make that caveat that this is public charging. And I'll be sure to share the links, and you'll be able to see that full plan and dig into that data a bit. And then just offering some narrative. So there are some incredibly dense pockets of EVs within all of these counties, and making sure our primary reason for wanting to do like a more granular geospatial kind of look is to see where do these chargers need to go? How are we gonna alleviate the concerns of range charging and sort of facilitate shift to this technology? And then I want to show, this is what I think is cool, especially for folks like you. Hopefully you find it cool. But just some bespoke tools for the region. So this is the red square are fast chargers, level 3, blue is level 2. And it lets you go in, see sort of at that 30,000 foot view where these things are. So this isn't meant to replace any of the apps that folks are using as sort of wayfinding or seeing the availability of ports. Obviously, you're going to use Plug in America, you're going to use Tesla. But from a planning perspective, it's super useful to have it all on a map like this that then we're able to do some spatial analyses on. And then vehicle trends. So this data comes from, once it comes up, comes from the DMV and then kind of through an intermediary where we parse out sort of make and model. It's not rendering beautifully on the screen right now, but I love playing with this. So at a region level, we have 108,000 EVs on the road. So that's inclusive of plug-in hybrid and battery electric. But you can go down by zip code. I don't know. So let's choose a random zip code. 7704401. Let's do it. 40. Not hybrid electric. So yeah, just plug things that could operate zero emission and charge externally. Okay, well, it showed you the zip code, but it will adjust these metrics shortly, hopefully. But the interesting, seeing the historic data, so you can see sort of those yearly trends and see that upward trend generally. Sorry, I wasn't able to pull up that little zip code. It wasn't loading quite right. Interesting. So you can go make by model. So it looks like Audi has 2.7% share of the market in this region. Jeep 3.4, and it'll change based on those selections.
I see that there's like a band, red or dark orange. What, if I'm looking at the zip code, the map there?
Yep, that's just a function of. Oh, this band. Yeah. We'll zoom in a little. I've heard it described as a Texas triangle, not the Texas triangle. That's something else. But a Houston triangle. So seeing if you were to pull up the zip code chart, income is heavily related to EV density. So some of the wealthiest areas are where you see those darkest, which are the highest EV registrations. Yeah, no, I can't say I've looked at that data in particular, but intuitively, yes, we know that multifamily dwellings definitely have more trouble charging. Like I live in an apartment, I just got an EV recently, and uh, yeah, if your apartment doesn't have the charger, obviously that is an impediment, and that's something we're looking to see if HGAC, once this sort of foundational material is finished, whether we could fund something like multifamily dwelling EV charging. Just see if there are any other cool. So let's see what Fort Bend. There we go. So then now it's updating a little.
And those cars, most of the cars on the outside.
Yeah. And Fort Bend. Mm-hmm.
The converter basically starts there. Fort Bend basically starts there. Beltway 859.
So then, yeah, you're able to see 23,000 of that 108,000 are all from Fort Bend. So just interesting metrics. Like once you dig in, you're able to see if you wanted to see how many plug-in hybrids are in Fort Bend County. My internet's a little slow. I think that's a problem right now. But interesting tool developed. So that sort of like first round, the study we're doing, a lot of that data was coming off of this tool and the data associated. And then in the next project we'll talk about, we're going to do some more advanced modeling and projections. So that is the dashboard. And then some other materials. So we have a web page to sort of house the zero emission work done at the agency. Working on updating it, but pretty much the look and feel of that study we want represented. So we have updated graphics. Again, just trying to get the basic, both residents and elected official policymakers providing them some quick information. So we made sheets about battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid, sort of the one pager, common questions, misconceptions. What else is on here? And then lastly, just to show you a bit what this study looks like. So tried to make it highly I'll say highly readable. I understand y'all won't be able to read that. But something that hopefully keeps people's attention. The more elected officials know about this work, the more they sort of understand the technology, the most likely they'll be to make the best informed decisions. So, like I said, about 35 pages, meant to be very readable. And here's an interesting map. So this is the background. So the color gradation is EV registrations, and then dense charging pockets are in those green, and the number of ports in the white. So you can just see spatially there's obvious gaps in the charging network, and unsurprisingly, chicken or egg, we don't see a lot of EVs in an area up here where there aren't any chargers. Yeah, so interesting planning perspective. Hopefully, we're giving folks with this study. So the next steps, really sort of the crux of the excitement, I guess you could say. We're going out for a full planning process, which is a long way to say we're going to pay people to do a lot of the intense like technical work that we weren't able to do. So what that looks like is we're going to do so some pretty intense projections and then finding suitable sites for chargers. So look at that map, spatial, including distribution lines, power availability, all sort of the nitty gritty, and we're gonna be able to score potential locations, have sort of priority areas for when funding becomes available, either from HGAC, the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to be able to give some pretty methodologically sound advice to folks who want to go in and cite some of those chargers. Environmental analysis. So what air quality benefits can we expect from increasing ZEV adoption? Something like 25% of the major precursor to ozone in our region is related to transportation, largely medium and heavy duty transportation, but that's also included both in the study and in our planning process. So up through class 8 vehicles. Going to talk that energy grid and utilities is going to be a super interesting part. So like I said, we're going through a competitive process to sort of find the right folks, find consultants who are able to sort of piece this all together and tell a cohesive narrative to our elected officials. And we want to make sure that that energy grid utility, I think, is where the biggest fear is right now. It's a crazy fear. We are citing tons and tons of data centers, and at full strength, when Texas planning to build out, like, I'm gonna say like 800 to 1,200 chargers under that NEVI program. If every single stall of every single charger was used at the same time, it would be like 2% of what, not just data centers. At the time of that stat, it was Bitcoin mining. So 2% of Bitcoin mining would have powered all the chargers in Texas at full use all at the same time. So that's the scary part. And then that third task in that scope of work, economic workforce safety, like tell the story. Why do we want these vehicles? Why do we want to attract this sort of business? Because it's great for the environment, the economy, workforce, et cetera, et cetera. And some of those big worries may not be as daunting as folks think. So let's see if I had anything else. So yeah, just hope that was helpful to kind of contextualize both what HGAC does in this space, what we're planning on doing, and kind of give y'all a pulse check of where the sort of policy environment is at the moment.
Very informative. Thanks, Vinny. So questions here, Robert.
You answered part of it about grid. Wouldn't, in terms of pollution and CO2, wouldn't it be our first action be for the grid, clean up the grid, get more solar panels, get more wind, or?
Yeah, if that was at all within the
I'll-
scope
yeah.
of, no, certainly. I was surprised to learn Texas actually has a pretty clean grid. So I'm a recent transplant. I moved here about 3 years ago from Pennsylvania. I want to say Texas is number one in wind. We are number one in solar, and as of 3 months ago or something, we were within striking distance of battery storage with California. So our grid is pretty clean. So even with that's often some pushback or some questions we get, like, oh, well, aren't you just displacing emission because the electricity has to be generated somewhere? If it has to happen, you want it to be in Texas because our grid is clean. And yeah, so something like ozone specifically is considered a regional pollutant because it's not emitted. It forms through a chemical reaction. So all that to say is emissions of one pollutant here and one pollutant there can meet 3 counties over and form dangerous levels of ozone. So even if some of those emissions are offset and pushed out of our region in the form of generation, you're still improving local air quality by removing some of those precursors.
And just two more things. You think with the situation in the Middle East, people are going to be a little bit more amenable, the bureaucrats and the elected officials, when the price of fuel goes out the roof?
It's been a personal talking point of mine that I haven't had to buy gas since things have started up. But I mean, I do think so. Once, I mean, energy capital E energy is plentiful in Houston. So I think definitely is a bit of an artificially lowers our cost and our perception of cost of gasoline, et cetera. But yeah, yes.
And one more thing, his industry, the airline industry, is working to go on a lower carb diet. So Kevin, this man right here.
Of course.
You mentioned your data comes from DMV. Is that public data, or do you guys have some kind of special arrangement with where other than DMV do you get your data from other places, and what kind of resources do you have to get that?
Yeah, sure. So short answer is it's complicated. But we Dallas Fort Worth Clean Cities is an agency very similar to ours, kind of our sister agency up in Dallas. They have an agreement. I don't know what form it takes where they get Texas DMV data. We don't get it from the DMV, and I don't think we'd be able to if we tried. I don't. It's kind of a quirk that Dallas was able to. So everything you see on this is kind of being funneled through Dallas Fort Worth Clean Cities. They also have a pretty user-friendly interface. I'd be happy to share that link, and you can export things. I've done analyses about EV safety, so crash data, et cetera. Like it's pretty neat, but it comes through sort of that third. I don't want to call them a third party, but we don't have it specifically. Yes, absolutely.
So the website you've been showing us. Okay.
Yep. So this is HJC on the website, and then you can access the dashboard. I'd suggest clicking into the full link to for some better rendering. But the data truly is as much of a nerd as I think it makes me. Like digging into this regional data is illuminating.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's certainly not. I mean, it gets down. The furthest it gets down is zip code level, so you're not seeing something like a census tract or a census group, which would be sort of that neighborhood sized. So it's all to zip code. Yeah.
So you mentioned the school trying to get electrified buses. Could you talk about Metro and other fleet users?
Yeah.
Like how much have they already done and how much do they need to do? Like I've never seen an electric Metro bus.
Yeah, so it is more challenging. I don't mean to be clicking around. I'm just a little nervous tick. Yeah, so on the fleet side, it's more difficult, especially buses and transit buses have undergone some like national level consolidation. A lot of companies have been going out of business, or it's been difficult for those users to get sort of reliable and long-standing contracts with producers. I don't want to speak for Metro, but as far as I remember, they did have maybe 10 demo vehicles, EVs that had been operating. I'm not sure the status of those, but that's something if you have fleet contact information, my group's always available to talk them through sort of pros and cons, run some analyses for them, and try to explain the potential. But yeah, at present, the largest fleet that's using EVs is probably the Amazon in the area, and they are tricky minxes with their data. So unsurprisingly, but yeah, I can't say there's a ton of penetration at those larger class vehicles at the moment.
So regarding Metro, Colin, the Metro EV buses.
Yeah, we did. Mike did. We did visit Metro, and we did talk to their
the people that are running them and maintaining them. And at the time, it seemed some positive, but since then, it seems like they've had some difficulties, I think, with the manufacturer and so forth. They were talking about adding 10 buses a year or something to that effect. I don't think that's happened. They do run a lot of hybrid buses. But yeah, we got to drive. They took us around in one, and they showed us the structure. And the thing that I still remember is it's got the same motor as an M1 tank. And one of the guys who was maintaining it was a vet. Yeah, I was shocked, but yeah, it was a good visit, but they probably could use some lobbying. Yeah, we should. That's an area we could really spend some effort.
See, there's a 3 by the chat. Are there some questions in chat?
Well, I think that's. Colin, you also drove an electric school bus inside there.
I sure did.
He drove an electric school bus. Yeah, that was a
Yeah, electric
opportunity.
school buses specifically are one of the best sort of heavy duty applications of electric vehicles. Like they have a fixed predictable route. They don't run during the hottest time of the year in Houston's, and also sort of that V to G. They can be an asset in natural disasters if you wanted to plug in and power something like a resilience center, a cooling center. I think EV buses are going to proliferate, and then maybe on sort of the long haul trucking, et cetera, is where we're going to see more of the fuel cell penetration.
Well, yeah, you brought up a couple of things that I'd like to tap on. So one about the cooling, we know that for the buses for Metro, one of the problems they've always had is to meet their cooling demands, because the way they test their buses, they put them out in the sun for so many hours and they get them up to 120 or 150 degrees or something inside. And then the system has to bring it down to like 70 degrees within, it is 15 minutes or something like that.
Lasting stress test.
It's a really tough stress test. Yeah. So only recently have the EV buses been able to even qualify to be accepted. And then, as Colin said, just getting them in. But yeah, they have some folks that are knowledgeable about them when we were up at the depot. And the charging was an issue as well. Yeah. Yeah, because the way that they're used to it, of course, is, you drive the buses almost 24 hours a day. You get a very small window to stop, and refueling with liquid fuel can be done in that time frame, whereas EV charging doesn't.
Yeah.
So school buses, on the other hand, have a lot more flexibility. They have a morning run, an afternoon run, and then they don't run so much in the middle of the day. They can charge both middle of the day and overnight. But you talked about particulate pollution, which makes me think of 18-wheelers. Of course, over on Highway 146, you got all these 18-wheelers pulling onto 146 and accelerating and, emitting all kinds of clouds of stuff. And we know that all the 18-wheeler manufacturers, including the Tesla semis, are upping their production rates. Have you been looking into those for HGAC?
Yeah, so again, a little inside baseball. We're also the Houston-Galveston Clean Cities, which is a partnership with the Department of Energy to promote alternative fuel use in the region to conserve our natural resources. And at one of those stakeholder meetings, which I'd be happy to invite this group to, but we had the Tesla semi sort of project manager, if you will, for Texas come and describe that they have a whole new production plant, maybe in Austin, or maybe I'm pulling that from somewhere. But
I think the Tesla semis are being built in Nevada.
Okay, yeah, perhaps. But they have a whole new dedicated facility for the semis, and they're expanding that charging network. So obviously that's like megawatt charging. It's incredible sort of.
That was the next thing I was going to get to, because I read that they built like a crescent from California across like Arizona, New Mexico to Texas, because you think of the Austin plant and the California, both the Fremont and the Nevada plants. And if you want to get parts back and forth and you want to deliver them by EV semi, then you need those charging locations. And I think they were saying about 9 1-megawatt chargers or something like that along the interstates in that kind of a crescent that would enable them to do that. I don't know what the status of the construction of those. Is it? Okay, about semi-chargers? Okay. Because most of us probably personally don't have that much of an interest, but in terms of air pollution reduction, we have an interest. Yeah. Not
Yeah,
that,
so looks like 19 planned EV charging for Class 8 trucks is
There
going to be
you
in
go.
Texas.
okay.
Yeah, so to give you a sense, like obviously that charging those things and charging them as fast as they need to have sort of the uptime and the drive cycles they need is incredible, but looks like a whole big hub in Houston. And I know specifically that that Dallas agency I've been talking about does intense studies on the 45 to see the feasibility of getting some of that port traffic up to Dallas on with enough charging along the way.
Okay. Good. Good. So more.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in the first question about the situation going on in the Middle East. EVs are also great for national security, that our money is staying here in America. We're not funding regimes that buy all these exotic weapons and so forth. So that's another good point. And so it's covers all the spectrum of the political spectrum. Yeah.
Certainly.
Good. Well, you certainly do make me feel better about driving across downtown Houston in an EV, because obviously the densest part of the city, don't have any tailpipe.
Yeah,
emissions.
I would just recommend, if y'all haven't already talked to Raymond Burns of Harris County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had him as a speaker here before
Yeah,
you.
awesome. Yeah, because that's kind of the gold standard of that municipal transition. So obviously, local government, municipal agencies need to be responsible with their money, and kind of making the way he makes that argument, I think is really, really great, and everyone can take notes from. Um, but yeah, that's all I have. I appreciate the attention, and I'll certainly get those links together. Probably could even print some of these studies and the one pagers out if y'all wanted for any events you were having.
Yeah,
Thank
we'd
you,
love
folks.
to be able to spread your info. When you heard at the beginning, we love having our members bring their cars out and talk to folks, and folks are interested in everything from where the energy for their charging comes from to what doesn't go out of the tailpipe that doesn't exist. You know, no part is the best part, you know. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Vinny. Okay, good. So I always like to ask members if they've had any exciting things happening in their own personal EV world, whether they have a suspension issue that they'd like to talk to other club members about, or not. And
Just a funny story. So, like I said, I moved here about 3 years ago, primarily connected to air quality from the health and policy perspective. Anyway, I was engaged in sort of the zero emission vehicle work for most of the time I've been here, and for 2.5 of those years, I was driving a 2012 Dodge Durango that got 12.5 miles per gallon. So I really was not walking the walk, and it was humiliating pulling up to meetings sometimes and just like hoping no one would see what I rolled up in. Loved the car, hated the impact, but finally made the jump, got a Tesla against my political leanings, but got a Tesla. I've been perfectly pleased ever since. So yeah.
good. Everybody likes when there's personal stories of things that they've done in their lives. Yeah. So you want to?
An anecdotal comment on his map there. I found myself up 59 in the Cold Spring area over, I guess it was winter camp, Boy Scout camp winter break. So it was chillier that week than I'd anticipated, and I was only charging on a wall outlet up there. So when it came time to come home, my range that I had available when I left Camp Strake was not what I thought I would be. And two of the three chargers that I stopped at were not serviceable. And in the end, I probably would have gotten home without charging, but I ended up charging on an older, slow DC fast charger that was doing it like 20 amps. So yeah, there's definitely, and I saw that on your map, there's definitely a lack of chargers as you go up 59.
Yeah, definitely. Something I didn't mention, how are folks familiar with Nevi and some of the progress? Could be an interesting discussion. The TechStop project manager for that is lovely. But the goal of Nevi, the first phase needs to be to build out the interstate highways. So once that phase one is complete, which I want to say TechStop is either complete or is completing very soon, that build out of the alternative fuel corridors. So every 50 miles on the interstate highway, like I said, don't quote me on it, but very soon we'll have DC fast charging every 50 miles. So that is incredible and cool. And then in later phases of that grant is when they would come to the MPO and ask in the region what's possible.
And I take it they're putting both CCS and NACS connectors at those locations? Yes, okay. Nowadays, yeah, just because that way it allows everybody to charge. Good, good. So more questions or discussion points or? Yeah. Yeah.
I got a call, actually an email from the general manager of Tesla Woodlands, trying to put me in touch with this guy who runs a can't remember the name of it, but it's a garage where you park your expensive car for $200 a month, and they have lots of very expensive cars in there. They also it's a socialite thing. They have a barber, they have a restaurant, a bar, cigar room, poker. You know, it's a social thing also. But the reason the guy was trying to get a hold of me was he knew that I had a Tesla Roadster, I have a 2010 Tesla Roadster. They have one that someone has basically abandoned and has not been charged for a year. So I went up there and took my charger to see if I could get it going. I didn't have any luck. I'm not sure that they will, but it was he said that some guy in Sweden bought this thing for $220,000 and has left it there, and they have no contact with him. They are repossessing it basically. Yeah, because he hasn't paid any of the charges either. It looks like it's got a version 3 battery, which is the latest battery from Tesla. So I'm a little, that is the only Tesla, and as far as I know, the only EV that uses that connection. There is nothing else that uses it. So these guys are kind of stuck. He's hoping that he wants to revive it and use it as an advertisement for their garage, right? Along next to their $500,000 Aston Martin. And he had a vehicle there that was he said armored for a 50 caliber machine gun and weighed 18,000 pounds. And it's parked in this place. I said, this guy's waiting for the apocalypse. He's got to be waiting for the apocalypse. Had other people with Lamborghini SUVs that are current models that are parked in there. I'm like, who has that many cars? But anyway, he invited us to have a meeting out there. VW does. You can take your car out there and work on it there. They have a lift, and so that VW has classes there. And we'll see if we can fit something in. Just to see the cars, it is incredible, really fun.
So that Roadster that wouldn't drive, could they roll it somewhere? Is it movable?
Yeah, it is movable. They were going to hook it up to a 220 volt charger and see if they got anything. But I tried it on I tried to power it from my Cybertruck, and I didn't get anything. It had no sign of life. It's very, it's not a good sign. Yeah.
No, because yeah, if it's not going to go, then it's best just parked in the lobby in front of some big windows for everyone to look in and see. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and they
Okay.
replaced it, and I got there, still no sign of life.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, we've all read stories of cars that have gotten bricked because, yeah, the electronics just can't handle certain situations, and then they can't be woken up again. Yeah. So, but good. Okay. So, more questions or comments? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll start back here.
I just got to deal with Chariot Energy, free nights from 11 to 6 in the morning,
Okay.
7 days a week.
Okay.
So that's, I don't know.
And so, of course, you charge your EV during the middle of the night then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Because that,
Okay, you can program the charging time, so
right.
don't pay anything.
Program the charging time. So that's a good one. Yeah. I know a number of different folks that have tried out the different plans from different reps, retail electric providers for the free nights. Good.
I'm going to go back quickly to the public transportation. I did a quick search here. In Europe, the share of electric buses or zero-emission buses is 60%. 60% last year, and there are a couple of countries that are 100% buses. So I think if Metro wants to do it, it might be a bit warmer here, a bit hotter, so there might be some challenge. No, I think they're really, but they've been removed, they've been phased out. Yeah, but I think if Metro wanted to do it, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I don't think so. The solution is probably exists. Of course, you probably want to source your buses in some countries where we are not allowed to do business nowadays. So that's probably where the limitation is.
And I've seen some innovations where, for example, and I think this has been in Europe, the buses have the cantonary on top. So when they stop at a bus stop, they can get some charge as they're going and running their route. So in other words, they don't need the size of a battery to do an entire route and then need to spend a whole lot of time charging without carrying any passengers, because by the nature of buses, they're going to be stopping for a certain amount of time to pick up people. And I find that very efficient, because then you can just have the power right there at an overhead. You don't have to run long wires, but just a couple of contact points at a main bus stops, and the bus stops there and charges at the same time that you're charging the bus with people, so to speak, getting them in and out.
And we can extrapolate this a little bit. I've heard talks about electrification rail, which can be very expensive if you want to electrify the whole network, but actually it's not that a requirement if you put some batteries, because, for example, you want to go through a tunnel, well, you use your battery to go through the tunnels or through bridges and things like that. You electrify the easy part, right, where it's cheap to do, and where it's complicated, you keep going with batteries. So with this type of hybrid system, it might be feasible or economically to electrify rail. So similar idea of partially charging your buses.
Right. Good. Yeah. I love the idea of having more electrified. Yeah. Because as I was talking with somebody, and Robert brought up the international oil situation, even in the US, the long distance trains are diesel electrics. So even though they've got an electric motor providing their drive, they're actually burning diesel to go across the United States. Whereas, for example, going across from Europe to Asia on the Trans-Siberian, that's an entire electric line, the entire way, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So yeah, that's right. Well, you have hydropower and things like that to power it, and then you don't have to supply fuel. Yeah. So something else, Colin. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention the vehicle, the grid. Tesla contacted me about using my Cybertruck for a virtual power plant. So I apparently they're looking for people who don't have solar and don't have a battery. They just have a cyber because it's now doing. I have the gateway that allows it to power my house in a hurricane or whatever. And now they're talking about, well, you can make money doing this, or we'll credit you. And so I signed up for a pilot program, and I had to switch providers to Tesla. And so far nothing else has happened. I'm not sure what the process is, but they're looking at building virtual power plants for. Yeah, as well as I guess Base Power is doing that, and some other providers are on that same track.
Okay, so they'll want you to have anytime your vehicle's at home to have it connected up. Okay, well, I mean I
give you the option if you want to make money.
Yeah, make money, right? Well, and I've heard the expression that a Cybertruck is something like a rolling 10 power walls or something on that order. Yeah. So that, yeah. And because most home installations, people debate 2 power walls, 3 power walls. I mean, I don't know of anybody who's got 10 power walls at their own personal home, but that's basically what you got when you use the gateway and connect to a big vehicle that way. So good. This is all the expensive cars and then the nice lounge with the pool table. Looks nice all around. Yeah. So they invited us to use like a conference room or something for a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when it's available, and do we want to drive that far is a whole other question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, worth the drive at least once. We'll see and such. But but back to Tesla being a retail electric provider. So we've got other members that also have that, and so it's good to see it spreading around so that we get more battery interaction with the grid. And and you're referring, Vinny, to in Austin what Tesla is doing, and of course, one of the things is they're spreading. You mentioned that the state of Texas is getting close to being #1 in the batteries for the stationary deployment, like it's already gotten to be for solar and for wind. Those batteries, of course, will help add resiliency to the grid and enable more renewable power to be used when it's demanded on the grid. Yeah. And can help with fast chargers, be able to, yes, I've heard that as well, that you could have a remote fast charger and you could have solar providing the source of the electricity. But of course, you want that charger to be available for a car driving up at midnight or something going cross country. And by having the stationary batteries, you could have it remote. You wouldn't need to have big, heavy power lines come to some remote, say, for example, West Texas location. Because right now on I-10, there's just certain places where you have to stop to keep going. So, Jim.
Hey, thanks. I don't know if everybody knows, 2026 is the 20th anniversary of a movie called Who Killed the Electric Car? I'd like to see by a show of hands, how many people have seen that film? It's streamable on Netflix now. I just rewatched it. I probably saw it 10 years or more. I learned a lot. There is so much history in there. And of course, it's mainly about GM's EV1 and how they made all these cars and you could only lease them, and then they took them all back and crushed them. I'm not giving it away. And but it goes through who actually is responsible for this not being a successful program and continuing, and it's worth a watch.
Good. That's good to know that it's out there on Netflix. Yeah. It reminds me of the story that the CEO of GM was looking at the development of the Bolt. That the engineers came up to him and said, wanted to do an all electric vehicle. And he said, well, let's just stick an engine in there and make it a PHEV. So that's why the Chevy Volt with a V has an engine. He didn't want to go all electric. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, good. Any other info for folks to share? Anything online, Colin? I know a couple of folks that said that they're going to want to watch the recording of this. So hi to all those people in the future who are. Yeah, Kevin.
If you're on Robert Sanchez's email list, you know this already, but there's a couple of things. One is Tesla just signed the final stuff with Waller County for the Megapack battery factory in Waller. It's going to be at the Western Empire business district between I-10 and 90 west of Katy. It's going to be the same size as their other two mega battery pack factories. So 1,500 jobs, tons of economy. They got a good tax deal from the county, which is being subsidized by the landowners. Because I have my glider up in Waller, and they keep wanting to tax us more and more. The other piece of news is that Texas is one of 8 states that has been approved for the aerial electric aircraft shuttle market. So Houston's it's initially going to be Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston will be added. But it's a pretty big deal because all the big players are involved: Beta, Joby, Archer, Electroflight. They're going to start off flying the routes with conventional aircraft, and then they're going to fly the conventional aircraft and the electric aircraft in tandem and take down all the data, and then they'll eventually expand it into cargo and then passenger service once the FAA approves it. So we might in the next by the end of this decade, I think we're going to see and maybe in the next year starting we'll see in the United States air carrier, passengers being carried.
Glad to hear about that development. So we love all electric vehicles. They don't have to have 4 wheels and go on an interstate. They can have any number of wheels that they don't use very often.
I saw a story about Aptera in my news feed the other day, that their first production intent vehicle came. They've started building vehicles on their production line. So the first of them rolled off the line. I think it was in my news feed like last Tuesday, and the stock went from $1 and change to almost $4.
Good. Nice to see interest in all these developments. So, Kevin.
And then today they put out a video that was interesting. You can Google it, the latest Aptera video. And they borrowed another $6 million and the stock went back down to about 180. So, but like Seth said, one of the big milestones is validation of production line. And that's what these vehicles are. They're actually validating the production line, and they're still on schedule to start deliveries later this year. So that's I think once they put out vehicles to customers, they're going to be in good shape.
Very good. Yes, we know a certain CEO said making one electric car is easy. Making a million of them is hard. Right. You have to make the machine that makes the machine. So.
I just wanted to point out that our events are on on Evil Facebook. So if you want to know, I can't remember when Discovery Green Earth Day is, but it's right there. Yeah. And you can register right there. You need to register to participate in that one.
Yeah, so it starts at noon for the public getting there on Saturday, April 25th. But as was mentioned earlier, we have to get there with our vehicles like around 10 a.m. or something like that to get parked and in place before the public starts walking around. And we appreciate everybody who comes out with their vehicle, talks to the public about it. It's always great. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up with that then. Appreciate everybody here at Rice University. Thanks so much for hosting us. And it's always great to hear what the students are doing. So the more the merrier, who can come in person or watch online or whatever people are able to do. So, all righty, thanks.